Hey, hello everybody. Yes, it is Thursday and it's 9, so of course it is UK Cowboys time. Welcome everybody. Yes, it is episode 121 of season 2. We're into the positional breakdown series. Got myself and Lorne, aka the senior, with us, and we have as well from Star Gang, which we will talk about in a moment, the great Mr. Nix. You are on mute, Nix, just so you know. You've muted yourself there. There we go. He's in the building. How are we doing, everyone? How are we?
Yeah, doing good. A couple of weeks off watching my son's team losing every week at football, so glad to get away from that. And
when you say your son's team, do you also mean the Scotland team as well?
Well, there's that as well, but to be honest, I don't really follow the round ball game. But my son's been in a league this year, which we were normally in a B league. They amalgamated everybody because it all dropped out. A lot of teams dropped out, so they amalgamated us into one league. And I think the last couple of weeks we've been 6-0, 7-0, 8-0, 6-1, that sort of thing. So I'm glad the season's over and we're moving to a different league next year. So
one that's like a bit more even keeled is what you're saying. Yeah, and I was being political with my words there.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And how is sunny Texas over there, Nex?
It's 3 p.m. and it's hot, okay? I'm just telling you right now. It's like 100 degrees. The humidity's like 60-something right now. The sun's blazing. If you walk outside, you think you're out there for 2 minutes, like, did I go swimming? I don't remember jumping in a pool, but apparently I went swimming. I don't know how, but neither here nor there. I mean, pleasure to be here with you guys, man. Awesome stuff as always with y'all. Yeah, hot though. H-O-T, all caps. H-O-T, hot, all caps. That's where we're at over here in the greater East Texas area.
Like I was saying to you off air, I've been over there for the summer, and somebody asked me what it was like, and I said, like I said to you, best way to describe it is being in someone's mouth.
Fair enough. Yeah, just hot and wet. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely weird over here. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I wish I could tell you. I mean, it's not the most appeasing thing to say, but you're not wrong. So I think you're okay when you're right.
Yeah, it's trying to find a great way to describe it. But what we'll do is we'll get to Star Gang in a moment. We're just going to run into some news and updates that have popped up in the week. First of all, camp. So the dates have come out. That's some good news. So the dates have been set. What we know is that they are arriving in Oxford on the 20th of July. The first practice then starting on the 22nd of July. There is a post on our social media, so if you want to go and check out more of the dates and the specifics, it's all in there. Another one that came out is they're looking this year for the throwback is to do also the throwback helmet as well, and I quite like that. Yep. The old style, it's like an off-white with like the solid blue star. I'm liking that. Other one is
something they've not been. That's something they've not been able to do the last couple of years because there was a league ruling that you were only allowed to have one hit for the entire season, and unless you could do something with that helmet, taking the decals off and changing the decals, and some teams were able to do that. Obviously, the Cowboys couldn't because you wouldn't be able to do a respray in time and then change it back the next week, sort of thing. So this is something that's positive because I love the old throwback uniforms. Whenever I'm playing Madden, I certainly use the sort of the old throwback uniforms as much as possible.
Take the NFL out of it real quick, right? The Cowboys are worth over the most, valued franchise, $5 billion, the whole nine. Like, how ridiculous is it? No, you look at college football, right? The Oregon Ducks, for instance, they got like 50 million different jerseys, right? You look at the NBA, they got 50 million jerseys. In the NFL, we're like, sorry, guys, one helmet per team. Sorry. Y'all can spray them, do whatever, but it's only one helmet. It's like, really, NFL? So along with the numbers, and they kind of eased up on the numbers now, good to see them starting to ease up on the helmets. You know, the NFL stood for the no fun league for a long time.
League, yeah.
And they're trying to have a little bit of fun, right? They're trying to get back into it. It's like, yeah, allow it. So again, come Thanksgiving, we better see those greatest helmet jersey combos of all time in Cowboys Nation, or we'll have to riot.
I like the riot idea. Riot sounds good to me as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, in terms of news, it's fairly quiet out there, the off season. But I did want to ask you next, and I'm going to ask you then about Stargang. I asked the guys, because we started on the defensive line last week in our positional breakdown series, looking at the defensive line. And the first question I asked them, and I'll ask you as well, is in terms of the Cowboys defense, what they were last year, and I know that'll make your bottom eye twitch as soon as you talk about the Cowboys defense in 2020. Do you see this year's defense with what they've done? Is it better, worse, or some the same? How would you put it?
Boy, it better not be worse, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was
with you there.
I mean, it was historically worse, or the worst in Cowboys history. So, here's the positive side to me. Going into training camp as we're headed there July 22nd is that the head coach they brought in said, oh, you guys were not really playing where you should be playing. And he at least aligned them where they need to be playing, right? We've heard LVE talk about it. Man, I was out of position. I don't know what's going on. You've heard some different things about the different cornerbacks and where they're going to play and what's going on there. So the 3 techs versus 1 techs, right? He's came and went and got like a Brent Urban and different things of that ilk. So, excited. What's going on, Mark Cantor? So excited from that aspect of it. Of aligning these guys right. Obviously, we had a very heavy defensive draft, and we got to see how these rookies are going to. We can't rely on these rookies to be the end all be all. What makes the difference? Some of these guys that had a down year last year, Jalen, LVE, right? They obviously we're talking about linebackers today. Have to walk through that door and be better as well. So from an alignment standpoint and schematically. What Dan Quinn wants to do, it fits the personnel better. So you would have to think, right now, I call this the honeymoon season, guys. I call it the honeymoon season because you can't do no wrong. Sky's the limit. We're winning every game. There's no injuries. Oh, my God, here we go. So for the honeymoon side, man, it feels pretty good. Can't wait to see some of these battles at camp.
Yeah, but then, go on, you take it away, Lon, and I'll come back. I was
just going to say, if nothing else, it's a lot better in that we've had the OEAs this year. We've actually had the players getting it out on the field. The talk is that there's 3 types of learning. There's watching it, there's talking about it, and there's actually doing it. Half of these guys actually need to get out on the field. We saw last year with the Zoom calls and everything like that, guys weren't taking it on board, especially with a system like Mike Nolan's where there was a lot of check with me's, if the guy opposite you's doing this, you got to do that. And it was almost like trying to put the Landry flex defense in one season. Now, Landry took 5 years before the defense became what's known as doomsday. We were trying to do effectively the same thing last year. This year we've got players that are used to playing a multiple front. We've got more competition this year, I think. We spent a lot of money last year on guys like Gerald McCoy, Paul's favorite player that I can't mention. We spent money there that realistically, yes, we've got cheaper guys this year, but the competition's there, and they're just looking for everybody that comes in is looking for a new system that they can flourish in. If they get the chance, and they've built on the OTAs. If they go into training camp, they have a good training camp. I don't see why this can't be a better defense.
Yeah. And then the next question I asked is because a lot of people, when you ask them that question, the first thing they say is, well, I don't know. Let's wait and see. I'd like to think so. I'd like to hope so. But the next question I always ask then is, are they better, though, with Dan Quinn steering the ship, should we say? That's my question to you, Nick.
Yeah, no, I think For sure. And again, it just goes back to what I said previously. Schematically, this lines up. That's one. Two, he's already moved people in different positions that they feel like they should have been in all along. And maybe in the thing that I didn't add that I'll add to this is number three. We heard a lot last year that the coaching staff last year wasn't really good teachers, right? And that kind of goes back to our guy talking about the Zoom calls, right? And, not really installing and getting it there where they needed to be, is that we've seen Dan Quinn in the trenches, take reps even. The guys are very excited about him. You hear the words players coach. So he's literally in there mixing it up, teaching them. I know for me, whenever I played, those were the coaches that I was endeared to, that wasn't scared to per se get their hand in the dirt with me and show me, not tell me how to do it, show me how to do it. Because not every player can pick it up by you just telling them. They need to see it, or hands-on, right? We saw him working with Osa, and he was grabbing Osa and showing him this rip and different things. So that's the biggest thing with Dan Quinn, I think, from the teaching side, and that's his hallmark. He started coaching in the front seven, right? He began as a defensive line coach. Right. As he ascended to where he is now. And that's pretty big for these guys, because you keep hearing it from different guys in the locker room on the defensive side when they're doing the interview, saying stuff like, well, yeah, he gets in there and mixes it up. Or, he showed him, take Basham, for instance. He's like, I thought I was good, but they've already showed me several different things that I didn't understand about my game yet. A guy that we signed a free agency is going to be here for 2 years, God willing, with his 2-year deal. So, from that standpoint and the installation of what's going on, leaps and bounds ahead of where we were last year.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny that this one came up because we did a post this week about guys that we think will be cut. Not that we want to, that we're afraid.
I'll take that one if you'd like me to.
One of the guys we put on it was Bradley and I, and for me, is the arm length.
And look. Well, and it's not just arm length. We have to remember he's not this coaching staff's pick. He wasn't their pick.
That too.
And let's also remember, even with the guys that drafted him, and he was their guy last year, he got on the field on defense one snap for the whole year outside of special teams. So when you look at not only just the free agency, what they did, and then you look at what they did in the draft, he's battling. It's not to say that he will be cut. He's on the fringe. Make no mistake about it. He is on the fringe, Dave. Obviously we were built up, and you got to look at it like this too. Every guy we select is going to get built up. They haven't been on the field, different things like that. So, but with Bradley and I, just comes through that he's not this staff's guy. And you look at what they added, the numbers game tells you what it is. So at the end of the day, he's going to have to compete. Now, it's not to say that he will be cut, but guys, absolutely, he's on the. I think Tristan Hill's another guy that definitely is on the fringe.
I see where you go in. I can see where you go in there.
Because if we're talking about length and not their guy, right? Who thought that Antoine Woods got cut, right? Because now we only got two, quote unquote, one techs, if you will, with the 6th-round pick from Big Bo from Kansas. Right, Bohanna, and then you have the Brett Urban that we signed in free agency. So everyone's like, "Oh, well, come on now. Woods is going to make it." No, he didn't make it. They got rid of him, and he doesn't fit the profile of Dan Quinn, and he's not Dan Quinn's guy. So Bradley Knob definitely is. The heat is hot for him. The seat is very hot for him.
I'm totally. Tristan Hill. I think you did. We saw with Tristan Hill that. What he can be for only a short period because of the injury. But I do see, it's a small sample size, but you did get to see the flashes, the burst, the snap anticipation that was there. You've seen all of that, but it's whether he can come back and bounce back from an injury and solidify a spot. I agree with you there. But yes, linebackers, and why we got you on, Mr. Nix, because tell everybody, where did you play when you played the great game on the gridiron?
On the old gridiron, I was I was two-way, tight end, defensive end / outside linebacker, and I started as D end and ended up playing a lot more outside linebacker than D end, and I was strong side, Sam, if you will, linebacker. So a lot of setting the edge, playing just a take on the outside of the tight end, where the tight end goes. That's where I went. Setting the edge, forcing him maybe to block me one-on-one, get to the backfield if necessary, or at times, go cover the tight end as well. But strong side linebacker is my positions where I played on the old gridiron.
Yeah, well, you're not going to like when we get to Jalen Smith, my comments about strong side linebackers then.
We'll see. Hold on now.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
I know,
we'll
I know.
see, Mike.
I know. Just so you know, whenever I say I still always love you, all right? So don't worry about that. Yeah,
all right.
It's always with love. But let's get into it then, guys. And I'm going to start you guys off with, I think, maybe the most electrifying pick for the Cowboys. And maybe apart from CeeDee Lamb, what we've had in the last few years with Micah Parsons. Now, he kind of fell into our lap thanks to Denver and Carolina picking J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, because they were really the guys that we were going for. But he was the first-round pick. We made a trade with the Eagles as well from Penn State. And we can say a lot about the linebackers from Penn State. 22 years of age. I gave this pick an A grade. My only issue with him, and we'll get to the numbers in a minute, I'll just get your initial thoughts on the picks, was that he sat out of the game for, Rona reasons. So I noticed it, and I don't know if you did, when we were watching the Senior Bowl, and we made this comment during the draft period, is that all the players who opted out for the season, they were lacking instincts, just like that edge to them. So it's a worry I've got with Micah Parsons, but I'll start with you next, and I'll come over to Lorne then. What do you make of the Micah Parsons pick in the first round?
Right. I mean, obviously, wasn't the Cowboys as an organization what they wanted to do, right? They basically stared Denver in the eye and said, there's no way you'll pass on the quarterback, right, Justin Fields. You're going to take your quarterback, and we're going to get our guy. Obviously, they knew something was of a foot, if you will, because they did try to trade up. They did try to trade up in front of both of those teams to get their guy. Now, we can argue schematics whoever they wanted. But now, with that being said, they got a twofold here, right? So they got to trade out from 10 to pick up the extra third. And then they basically got to control where Devontae Smith went, because that was kind of the hot button guy that was going to go there. Obviously, they wasn't scared of Devontae Smith going to Philly. So that's why they made the trade. You trade back 2 spots, you get the extra third, and you end up arguably with the best defensive prospect in the draft, right? No matter if that's what their hopes and wishes and dreams were or not, sometimes you win by dumb luck in this thing. And you end up with the best defensive guy at 12. And for your troubles, you got an extra third-round pick. So very fortuitous for the Cowboys to end up with him. Obviously, there's some things like people wasn't sure one side, right? You didn't play last year, so there's something there. You kind of worry about that. And then the other side was, well, is there maybe a maturity issue? Is there something maybe off the field that we need to worry about?
Yes, of course. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right, different things there, which, so far maybe it's not the number 12 pick we need to worry about. Maybe it's that number 44 pick some people are kind of worried about because he's rapping and doing some things. Different story for a different day. But so far he's walked through the door. The Cowboys, masters of their domain, right? They got him immediately. Hey, here's the press conference. Let's get the kid up there. We're going to have Jerry holding the kid.
They
hadn't cut. They got the whole family joking with the family, right? They've done a couple of different things with him, like Father's Day. Oh, let's make sure we get him the kid on Father's Day video, get it up on the Twitter. So they're marketing him the right way to do things. And then, of course, the reporting's been great and what he's been doing. Now, we'll talk about some of the on-the-field stuff. But as far as the pick goes from your question, I mean, again, if you go from 10 to 12, get arguably the best defensive prospect in a defense that needs help, obviously, that we talked about led off with in a third-round pick. Great job. From a GM standpoint, you have to give it an A as you already graded it.
And I did have him as my highest defensive ranked player. And as we'll look into, and I'll come to your take as well, Lorne, the linebacker position is something that needed to be looked at. But I'll get your take as well now, Lorne, while you're there. Just basically, we already know because we've talked in depth on this show together over this, but I'll still get your take anyway since we're on the linebacker position. Just your grade and how you feel about it.
Yeah, I think it's an A grade. I mean, obviously we were having the big discussion on the draft show that it was probably going to be Surtain, it was probably going to be J.C. Horn, whatever. Obviously, I think it's actually looking at Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn, his defense has always been about the front seven. The picks that he's normally spent on second players haven't been that high picks. I mean, look at Richard Sherman; he was a 5th rounder. the reason why the Legion of Boom worked is because you had the front seven were an absolute dominating force.
Yeah.
That you know, all you needed to do for a secondary was hold your guys up for 2-3 seconds, and make the quarterback pull that. Think again about where he's throwing, make him pump fake or whatever, and that just gave front seven a lot of time. A guy like Parsons, okay, at the time we were like, oh well, what are we doing here? We've lost out on Horn, we've lost out on Sertan. The more I think about it, and Nick Heatman came on saying that they actually had a higher grade on Parsons than they had on any other defensive player.
Yeah,
you can see why. As you say, we have the concerns in the Senior Bowl that all these players that had sat out, they just missed. The timing wasn't there, and that's something that you pick up on from doing things repetition, and actually being battle tested on the field. It's all very well going off and working with personal trainers, working with doing the drills that you would normally do in training, but until you're in an on-field position and you're reacting to what somebody's trying to do to you, that's something that you do miss out. You do miss out on that sort of thing.
And look, you're not wrong, because I mean, the one thing about the sport of football is, I don't care how hard you train. It's just one of the most difficult things to do to get better at than just having the pads on and doing it with live rounds. Look, baseball, y'all can have somebody throw to me just bad consistently, different. Look, I'm loving Zeke and all the videos and whatnot, but when he's working out, he's slimmed up and everything. But until the pads are on and things are happening, man, look, quarterbacks, right? Oh, you can look great in 7-on-7 and stuff, but until then things are really flying at you and things are happening, it's just a different beast. So when you have a prospect, right, that misses a whole year of football, he's playing a little bit of catch up. So, definitely. There's something to be had there. Speaking of Tuck, who's in here, me and him had a ton of conversations about this. Me and Tuck had about, man, the only guy he didn't take off his board for not playing last year was Chase, the wide receiver from LSU. But a lot of people kind of went into that and kind of thought about, hey, if you didn't play last year, I don't know if we can really mess for those simple reasons, But, we're hoping that, Michael Parsons is a different beast. So far, he showed up. He's done his thing. He came in shape, stuff like that. But, yeah, also, guys, get ready. It's going to happen. If y'all didn't know, David DeCastro just got cut by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I just seen that.
You already know with the offensive line and everything, we're about to get blown up with the Cowboys should go sign David DeCastro right now. They should go get him. Get ready.
Here is a perfect segue, because ironically I wrote this down, that one of the narratives with the draft was the Cowboys need O-line, Rashawn Slater, all the rest of all the familiar names that were in the draft. For me, I was dead set against it, and I was very vocal even on our show about, no, we do not want to be drafting an offensive lineman with that 10th pick. For me, it's not. You've got two great tackles. You could talk about their injury history and all the rest of it, but you can't predict really injuries. And I know the history is there, but for me, I was against the idea, and it was all about a defensive player. What was your feelings on it? And it's ironic that we were getting to the offensive line on that narrative. Were you dead set against the idea of an offensive lineman with that 10th pick next?
I wasn't completely off of it, just because when you draft, sometimes you got to look at the future as well, right? Connor Williams, best season he's had, right, ever. But last year of his deal. Are you really going to sign him to come back in and do things? Do you need a younger swing tackle, depending on what's going to happen with Tyron Smith? And I think a lot of people get confused and think just because Tyron's been around for so long that he's about to be up out of here. Actually, if the neck surgery, which I'm happy that he finally had the surgery, I think that's a big key to why he's missed games. But if the neck surgery fixes that thing, he's young enough. He's younger than Zach Martin, guys. Okay, let me be clear. And so he has 4 or 5 years left in that body if the neck surgery fixes things. But I was like, here's the thing: if we would have took Slater, I wouldn't have been mad at it. Am I overexcited? No, but I wouldn't have been mad at it. I'm like, okay, I get it. It makes sense, right? Sometimes on Christmas, you don't get exactly what you want, but you get what you need, right? So, I wouldn't have been mad at it, obviously, depending on what was on the board. And once we got to that point at 12, right, it was basically him or Parsons. I'm okay with the Parsons pick over Slater because the offensive line, I thought in the case that I made was if you were really thinking offensive tackle, there were guys in the second round that you could go get that I thought were really good. But I wouldn't have been just overly upset about it either. So, I mean, I was good to go, but hey, I like how it fell and what happened.
Yeah. I mean, because like the thing that I looked at, I went through his statistics. Now his height, weight, speed ratio is off the charts. It's right in the top left-hand corner. Spoke about this before. I'll have to put that chart up for some people who don't understand it. But just to put it on there, he's 6'3", 244 pounds, and he run a 4.3640.
Yeah.
That's in the 99th percentile. And
remember, he was a 5-star running back.
Yeah.
Right? He was a running back going to college. So that's where that speed with that size comes into play for him. He's not your prototypical, I came in as a linebacker recruit. He was a big-time running back recruit headed to Penn State.
Yep. And ironically, we've got a cornerback that played wide receiver. So you see the opposite ends and how that all works. His 10-yard split, which for me, I always say for defensive linemen and linebackers, the 10-yard split is most important because that's the burst. 159. That is insane speed. Anything below 1.6, I'm happy.
Goosebumps, yeah. Talk this foot. Go ahead, Mike. Talk that football porn to me. Let's go.
I keep giving it to you. All right then. But is broad jump 126? That's 90th percentile. And then you say, okay, but what's he like agility wise? Is 3-cone 696? Which is 73% now. But when you take into the equation of his height and weight, you just go, wow, that is a guy who can move quick and move fast and move at angles as well. And you see that in the side-to-side play that he does. And it's unbelievable that a guy can move that way.
Thanks. As Paul in the Castro got released by here, see, he's going to start at C. We just talked about that, Paul. Thank you very much. But no, you're right. No, go ahead, Mike.
No. It's over to you.
Go ahead. Yeah, if he was on this show, Paul,
Yeah.
Neither here nor
he
there.
Would know.
Yeah, you would know. But neither here nor there. But you're not wrong. And we had the little blurb about our swing tackle trade, right? And basically Micah Parsons put him in the mixer and almost hurt his knee because he juked inside, came back outside, had him fall back, and then all of a sudden you had Dan Quinn said, "Oh." And then you had D-Law say, "Oh, you got moves like that, Rook? Well, come over here. Let me show you some more." Right? So, again, for Parsons, and like they've talked about putting him at the Mike linebacker position and whatnot, maybe be our Bobby Wagner Jr. from Seattle. However, for the first year, if you got to, just use him as a defensive weapon. Hey, man, you want to stack him and D-Law on the same side? You can't double team both of them. Do what you got to do to apply that pressure and move him around and let him be a weapon. And that's the greatest thing, I think about him coming in right now with the lay of the land and what we do have in the linebacker room and that front seven is, hey, Neil, the LVE, all these guys, health provided. Man, you can kind of play with this guy a little bit and let him just go use all that great athletic ability you just talked about, Mike, and just allow him to make plays. Now, I get it.
Yeah.
A lot of your draft analysts and some of these experts say, well, you just don't draft the off-ball linebacker block. Man, I'd bring me players. Okay, I'm not going to get too caught up in that. Well, you don't get this off-ball guy this high, or you don't get a running back. Man, if that guy makes sense for your team, then you go get him. And obviously at 12, it made sense for us. And man, going back to what you thought about and how we thought about Dan Quinn, the idea of moving him around so early on, right? I mean, we're in shells. We're doing 7-on-7 stuff. We're not in the training camp, but the idea they're actually already playing and seeing what he can do as a playmaker, they're open to the idea, which again goes back to this defense should be better when you insert that kind of talent into this linebacker core.
Yeah, and I think with the multi-front schemes that we're going to be using, you can line them up. Look, start them off as an outside linebacker, and then something happens that suddenly one of them puts their hand down on the ground. You've then got him dropping back into coverage. You can use them all over the field, and that position flex that yeah, okay, it can be a nasty word, but just being able to use him anywhere on that field, and especially with the big thing about a 3-4 defense is you never know where that extra rusher is coming from. If you line them up in the middle, you blitz him up the B gap, line him on the outside, you have him coming around the tackle, the end, whatever. That just gives another level of uncertainty for the offense, when they're trying to analyze who's coming on the blitz.
Yeah. And just so you know, he holds a Penn State record for most tackles as a freshman. So he literally hit the ground running. And as a little tidbit stat for you, his last game that he ever played was at AT&T Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Very much.
And a little bit of
Penn State used to be known as Linebacker U back in the days of Bobby Paterno. That tradition is still there. Okay, the guys that have come out recently, Sean Lee, as great a player as he was, unfortunately injury prone, probably stopped him being booking his ticket to Canton. If he'd been able to stay on the field, we probably would have been talking multi-Pro Bowl player. Right. Probably still be playing nowadays as well. It was just purely injuries. Mm-hmm. But again, this guy looks like he could be the next in the line of Penn State greats.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So, and Bowman as well. Don't forget about Bowman as well, who was saying recently for Penn State. So reason why they're called linebacker U. And look, we're looking at Micah to come through and be that guy now, right?
Yeah. Yep. So here's one for you then. Projection wise, I'm gonna ask you both. He is on, if you're a betting man, the top guy to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Do you guys foresee that for him? I'm saying yes, because I say yes to everything when it comes to Cowboys.
Fair.
So it's not really any good. The Cowboys are going to win every game.
Right. We're going 17-0. I'm with you. I'm buying. Again, it's the honeymoon season. I'm buying all this for sure. I think the thing is, man, can he? Yes, he can for sure. He has the ability to go out there and be that guy. Some of that's going to depend on how they deploy him. Right, it's going to depend on when and think about this. We talk about these multi fronts and bear fronts or 4-3 under. Maybe where we're doing some 3-4. All these different things we're talking about. Let's be clear. Let's get back to the brass tacks of it. 75 to 80% of the time, we're going to be in a 4-2 front. Right, nickel.
Yes.
Right, 4 men, 2 linebackers.
Yep.
Is he going to be the guy that gets the nod the multitude of times at linebacker? I'll take it back to let me give you a Roquan Smith, for instance. Right, that played for Georgia, got drafted to the Bears. Wasn't Rookie of the Year. They use him in different ways or whatnot. But now you see year 2, 3, and everything that's happening with him and how great of a linebacker he is. Right. So it's how much are they going to lean on him? I think will dictate whether he has a chance or not. I think if they lean on him and he's going to play a majority of these steps, even when you're into the 4-2 defense or the nickel, I should say, then yes, absolutely has a chance. Throw his hat in the ring for sure. He can be that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Lon? What are you agreeing? You got another take?
No, I think he's well positioned to be Rookie of the Year. Again, it's not like a cornerback or somebody like that. It's obviously dependent on how he reads players and everything. Linebackers, it's a case of do your responsibility, attack whatever gap you're assigned to on each play. It's a lot easier to stand out and create the even if you're not getting to the quarterback and getting the sacks, just getting in his face, doing anything to be disruptive is going to get you noticed and get you in the eyes of the writers who ultimately then vote on the awards at the end of the season.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but we move from a guy that everyone loves to we call it here in the UK Marmite. Because Marmite, you either love Marmite or you hate it. And the next guy we're going to talk about is Jalen Smith, a very controversial player. You can use stats to argue both sides of it. People will say he's got the most, he was the number 1 tackler for the Cowboys, number 2 overall in the league. But then the other argument people can come back with was, yeah, but he was number 1 in assisted tackles. So there's arguments you could pull all over on these stats. The big issue, I think, for everybody is, look, he was a second-round pick, first of all. You can't deny that. We know the issues that he fell that far because of the injury that he had in the Senior Bowl. But right now, he's on a 6-year deal, $69 million. In 2021, he's just shy of $10 million. Amongst all the other linebackers, he ranks 14th. The issue is that apart from his tackles, you look at the tackles for a loss, which is what I look at with linebackers. He's not even in the top 100. Quarterback hits, he's not even in the top 200. Everything else, I mean, like he's outside the top 100 in every other stat. For you, Nix, with Jalen Smith, I forgot to mention from Notre Dame. How do you see him? Do you think, for me, right? Remember I said at the start about that Sam linebacker type. For me, Jalen Smith falls into the mold of he's that downhill, very if he was to write a textbook on a Sam linebacker, that's what Jalen Smith is. For me, he does that adequately. But the issue for me is that type of linebacker is the way the game is evolving, is that type of linebacker is falling by the wayside. How do you see him?
Well, I mean, and to start out of the gate, right, is that he was forced to put the green dot on the helmet with the injuries and everything else. That's not his game. It's not his game. He's not your Mike. He's not your middle linebacker. You don't want him, and I thought of one of the things that was late in the year, maybe like around week 15 or 16, and there's a clip, right? If you go watch the sounds from the sideline, there's a clip before they're going back on the field, and Sean Lee's grabbing him, and Sean Lee's like, hey, if you're not sure, just call Cowboys. If you're not sure, just call Cowboys. Because that's not his game, right? His game is, and one of the biggest things I said on the Stargame group as soon as he got in here, I was like, he'll be a Sam linebacker now. And that's where he needs to be, because you're going to you're cutting the field down to a third, basically. Okay? Right? You're giving him 3 things to do. Set the edge. Right? I'm going to set this edge here. They got to block me one-on-one, go make a play. 2, just go after the quarterback. Or 3, like we saw Dorrance Armstrong driving this wild last year, dropping into the flats and whatnot. Like, why is Dorrance Armstrong dropping into the flats? What is going on? So to me, he is the Sam linebacker. Now, to your point, though, Mike, we're talking about an alignment that we're going to be playing 20 to at most 30% in a game. So whenever we switch to that nickel, is he going to be the guy there? See, to me, I don't see how he's the guy there. I know there's a couple of the linebackers we're going to talk about, but as we start talking about those linebackers, like I don't see how, and throw Parsons in that mix, I don't see how, after we watched what he did and how he struggles in zone coverage and different things of that way, of how you could say he's going to be the guy in the nickel formation. But now, Sam linebacker-wise, bro, hey, this was 1995, and we're in that. By all means, this guy is ready to rock and roll. So it just goes back to how we do these alignments, how they decide to play things, and how much will be in that quote unquote base, right? That if that's the base and that 4-3 under, he's going to be the Sam. How much snaps is going to get? Now you talked about money lead. Now I don't like to get into the money situation, but this makes sense here because we're talking about a rotational
an unusual year.
Right. We're talking about a rotational piece at this point, right? We're talking, we're saying maybe 25-35% of the plays where he's going to be effective. I don't know. This is one of the things that Dan Quinn's came in to figure out, because he added Neal, he's added Parsons. He's got to figure out what this rotation is and how they do things. But he is the Sam, and that's where he should be, where he is currently. He can't be the Mike because he's not. Again, he doesn't need to be calling the plays. Even if you put him, look. And who's to say? Like, I'm not saying you got to make the middle linebacker your guy that's calling the plays, right? Let somebody else call them, right? Because there were times where Sean Lee was an off-ball linebacker calling the plays, right? That we've seen that in Dallas before. But if you're going to keep it, the idea is they're going to put him back in middle. I mean, I don't know about him calling the plays, guys, and that's just kind of where I'm at, because I think once he gets to thinking a little too much and not playing and doing what he does best, it becomes a problem. Now, I know a lot of people want to talk about the drop foot, the injury, the different things. look, last year I'm throwing it out the window. If I've seen you play well before, play well again. And I know a lot of people want to get up and down, and the swiping was really weird. Like you got to tackle 10 yards down the field, you're swiping different things, and the idea he's just happy to be here. And those, we're going to put that to the side, and let's see where he lines up, what Dan Quinn's plan for him, and move forward. But the situational stuff for the payday and what you're talking about and different things against the cap, it's going to be very interesting to see. This is a really open competition. And also, how is he going to react to if he's only playing maybe 30% of the snaps?
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, like the big thing. Go on, Lon. Go on. You take it, I'll come back.
Right. Okay. No, I mean, I think as Nex has said there, you got to throw last year out the window because, you know, he'd obviously the last year of Rod Marinelli's scheme, he was close to Pro Bowl consideration. Then, you know, game one last year, Leighton Van Der Esch goes down with his broken collarbone. He's suddenly going from playing the will linebacker to having to come in and start at the middle linebacker, calling the plays, everything like that. We saw what the defensive line was like last year. That, you know, certain people again couldn't do anything. You know, they were basically standing up and standing there and not occupying the guy for the periods of time. Linebackers have to be able to float to the ball. If the offensive line are getting to the second level straight away within, you know, a wee cursory handoff to your defensive lineman, and then you're off to the second level and taking the linebackers out. The job that whether the sort of being able to track back and make the assisted tackle, what Jalen actually did last year is good. And then as the season went on and there was more pressure about, you know, this being a historically bad defense, you know, again, I'm sort of talking about the scene in the replacements where they talk about quicksand. You know, one thing goes wrong, you put pressure on yourself. And obviously, Paul has that clip that you see Jalen comes in, he comes up into one gap, and then all of a sudden he's peeling out. The running back's coming in through the gap that Jalen should have been there. There's obviously something Jalen saw on that made him suddenly double guess himself. You saw last year as well with Leighton, the quarterback draw that Lamar Jackson did. You know, obviously we had Leighton saying, "Oh, you know, I should have done this." Something instinctively made me go and do this, and it's last year was a shit show. To be honest.
I mean, Lauren. I think Lauren, they were all playing hero ball, is what we call it. Right. They were trying to make every single play instead of trusting the scheme, trusting the system, and that goes back to they didn't get it installed right. They didn't trust Nolan and whatnot, and they were just trying to do it on their own, and they were playing hero ball. And when you play hero ball, I mean, you're just going to get into trouble. I mean, those are just facts. That's why, to me, like we'll talk about, we had the tackles, but then the Cowboys, you know, they didn't touch the running back 3 yard, blah, blah, all this stuff. I'm like, man, I get it. Like, you don't want to say there's a throwaway season. Like, I don't believe in throwaway games and stuff. But at a certain point, man, we just got to take it for what it is. And like, man, last year, look, I don't know. I just don't know how we can really take anything from those players last year, because I feel it's such a clean slate and what they've added, what they're doing, bringing the scheme back. And you see the passion from these guys. You know, I mean, we were 2-3 weeks in last year, guys. They're like, that man, I don't know about this defense, y'all. Man, they don't see it. You know, you just saw we had anonymous sources out there in the media, and it's a different feel now. So, like, again, I don't like to just throw away a season, Lauren. And everything you said is absolutely correct. I do not disagree with you. But I think it was just all the hero ball because they didn't trust the coaches.
Yeah, and one thing you're talking about, you know, with the instinct and all the rest of it, that for me is Jalen Smith's biggest issue. It's that he's got the athleticism. There's no denying that. It's the instincts, and they don't seem to have developed over in time. Like, one of the monikers I've said, and you've probably heard this yourself, Nex, is with linebackers, it is go slow until you know.
Right.
But what you see with Jalen Smith is there's no go slow. He's
open.
up and down that line. Oh, yeah, he is full throttle. And, you know, you talk about the swiping. I think a lot of that is that in his mind, he's just going a million miles an hour on everything. We're talking pre-snap at the snap, post snap, that he's running around like a headless chicken, and then he's doing the swipe, not because it's like some middle finger to Cowboys fans or whatever. He doesn't know what he's doing. I just think that he's just going so fast, and things are going so fast for him. He's just like, this is what I'm doing. And that's where it all falls down to. But
that's actually something that, hopefully that he's picked up some of the habits of Sean Lee. Obviously we watched in All or Nothing where Sean Lee was spending hour after hour off the field, sitting in the video rooms watching tape. Hopefully now that Sean's gone, somebody's taking up that mantle, because being able to have an understanding of what the opposition are going to try and do to you and what sort of mismatches are going to try and create, you should be able to pick up on that sort of thing. And that helps with your instincts so that you're not playing with the adrenaline and you're not running around like a headless chicken and trying to make a play, playing hero ball, as we've been talking about there.
Yeah. For me, I'm not sure. There is, looking at the cap numbers, and out for Jalen Smith next year. So I'll get your projection. We'll move on to Van Der Esch. Do you see Jalen Smith on this roster next year? If he has, should we say a mediocre season?
We're paying him to be a star, and I think he has to be above. He certainly has to be above average this year, and by that I don't just mean mopping up tackles. He needs to be making the tackles. He needs to be making tackles for loss, getting in the quarterback's face. If he is on coverage, he's defending passes in the flats. So if it's a mediocre, average, or below average season, then yes, I think we're out of there. But this year he's on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you guys, I mean, in the NFL, also, we talked about No Fun League. It also stands for not for long.
Yes.
Right. And so much can really change in a blink of an eye, right? I mean, go back to 2016 and Romo to Dak and boom, and here we go, right? I mean, just so quickly, and leading into that season, I told everybody, I was like, well, Romo's got about 32 games left. Enjoy it, because Dak's here now. Who knew he had 0 games left? So it can change so quickly.
Yeah.
And with Jalen, it's like, it just kind of depends. What is Dan? And right, it comes back to Dan Quinn again. The guy that I said who was the best, who was our greatest free agent pickup was Dan Quinn. We kind of led off and we talked about him earlier, Mike, right? So what is his plan for these guys? Back to Lauren's part of, Sean Lee, what he did. See, to me, I think that's Keanu O'Neal now, because he comes from Dan Quinn's system. He's in here to say, hey, here's how we run our system. So here's how things are going to work and how they're going to try to attack us. I've seen it because he played 42% of snaps at linebacker at Atlanta with Dan Quinn already before making the full transition. So, I mean, it just really, yes, does it depend on Jalen? Sure, he's got to walk through the door and play better. But a lot of that's going to detail what Dan Quinn's overall plan is for him and how he sees to put him in there. Look, I'll tell you now, if he is only going to be on for 20 to 30% of the snaps, 35 is the cap, he won't be here next year. You're not going to pay a guy that much for, a specialist anyway, because at that point you're calling him a specialist, and if he's not a defensive end rushing and getting you, 7 to 12 sacks a year, you're not paying that guy. And of course, we even got to Jabril Cox shit, right? You already added 2, rookie linebackers, and then you got Neal and whatnot. So yeah, it's up to Jalen for sure. But it's also to Dan Quinn and what his vision is and where he's going to put him, in a place to succeed. This year for sure, though. He's not getting cut this year, though. For a lot, a lot of fans are out there. But let's talk. I mean, a lot of fans are out there thinking he's going to get up out of here. Now, he's definitely not going anywhere this year.
The dead cap is way too much.
Right.
Yeah. The other consideration for next year is that we're predicted to be about 24 million over the cap at the moment for next year.
Yeah.
So there is
going to be Castro. Go sign the Castro.
But I mean,
go ahead, Lauren. I didn't mean to cut you off, Lauren. I'm sorry. Go ahead, though. Finish that point. That's a great point, Lauren. Go ahead.
There probably is going to be some sort of restructuring in contracts next year, cutting some dead weight, whatever. If if the numbers are there, then yes, you restructure him, try and get him to another extension, spread any further cap cost out. We're going to have to do some sort of wholesale change next year. Get rid of some of the high price people, which is why again Stephen was reported that Stephen's certainly happier to get as many of these draft picks on the roster this year, because then you're getting rid of some of the more expensive parts. And again, that's one of the reasons guys like Cedric Wilson, where we put that up on the post this week, is one of the ones that's maybe on the bubble. That's certainly something to consider, because the more we can carry across next year, again, that's maybe helping you out as well. And you're not
ended up being
as much.
Yeah, and you're talking about that post. That turned out to be quite a controversial post. A lot of people angry and some people agreeing. Yeah. It's all about creating a bit of conversation now. But let's move on to the next guy. I actually like Leighton Vander Esch. I'm a big fan of him, right? And I know that, like, in some circles, you say you like Vander Esch, instantly people turn off to you. They go, no. But I do like him, right? I know there's the issue that he's only started in 35 games out of a possible 48. That is an issue. And he did, one of the reasons why because in college in Boise, he was really good. The issue is he did have the neck injuries in college. But just to put things in order, he's 25 years of age. We took him in the first round in 2018. Fifth year's been declined on him. And with the way that the structure works on the CBA, he's this year on the cap 3.7 mil, which isn't a lot at all. For me, I like him. He's talked about being in great shape, that he feels good, the neck's good. I know, obviously, when game time happens, that all goes out the window. For me, I like him because of the role he plays. That typical thumper linebacker. The Brian Urlacher, which is kind of really what he was comped at. But you do see that in him. For me, for you guys, if you both want to pay in on this, then for him to get a payday and to stay out of the Cowboys next year, what does Leighton Vander Esch need to do? I'll start with you next.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, he's got to go back to 2018, right? I mean,
best year.
I mean, he has to go back to 2018 and be that guy. Now, part of that is, they put him back at, the will, right? Let's look now. And you say, well, Nick, what does that mean? He's back to the will. Well, what it means is, in that base, is he's not lined up over the tight end. He's allowed to kind of free flow run, from a physical standpoint, not to say that, football's physical, but from a physical standpoint, it's not the most physical demanding position of linebacker. So he's able to flow and run and go make plays, which back to the Brian Urlacher point, he is quick, he is fast, he can make tackles. Those things can happen. And he's been verbal about that. He's been very, very verbal early on at the OTAs and mini camps. Like, I've been out of position for 2 years. I don't know why they put me in middle, basically. He's like, I feel like I'm getting back to myself now, to the other side of I'm the best shape ever. But they all say this. And look, and you got to, right? Yep. That's fine. You got to say that. But the one thing I will say, the neck issue, and we did have the neck issue in 19. And now the Cowboys kind of, it's a stinger. It's not a stinger. Okay, it was a neck issue. He had to have surgery. Now, last year, broken collarbone, those things happen. I'm not really going to go out of my way to be like, he's Sean Lee 2.0. I'm not going to go that far.
It's not a soft tissue injury.
Yes, there you go. Exactly. All right, so you had a neck issue. You got it corrected. You broke a bone. So it's not like, my hammies hurt. I completely, as Sean Lee said, my whole entire ab got, ripped off. I had to, it's not those kind of things. Yeah. So, and you're getting back to a position that he was successful at, back to Dan Quinn. All these roads lead to Dan Quinn. Right. And you're putting back over there, letting him be successful. But again, just like him to get a payday or going all the way back over here to Jalen, well, what does Dan Quinn see fit? Who's going to be the big key guys on all these guys that we're talking about them? Nickel, 70% plus of the time. Who are the two linebackers that are going to be out there in nickel? Because I don't see a situation.
It's going to be the most important as well.
Right. So I don't really see a situation where we're going to say, well, it just depends on game to week, because coaches believe in players at a certain point.
Oh, yeah,
and there's going to be a point where, hey, we're in nickel. These are my two guys. Outside of that, we'll find places for you, whatever. So again, my training camp is so important, and what we're going to see is who are going to be the two guys on nickel. That'll dictate everything. But I'm excited. But for me, I'm excited for Sean Lee. Actually, going back to the weak side, depending on how much we play this 4-3 under and let him roam and do. I'm excited. Hey man, I'm telling you right now, Sean Lee. Excuse me. The LVE,
yeah, we got you.
Man, boy, if Leighton Vander should get back to 2018, boy, there's a lot to be excited about.
Oh yeah,
sure. Same thing with
Pro Bowl. Pro Bowl caliber. And when you're talking about it with the nickel linebacker, what you have to take into account is the Dan Quinn system is the cover 1, cover 3.
Right.
So that takes totally everything into account, what your linebacker, which piece you're going to use.
Yep.
So you're completely correct that camp is the most important. And I think with the way, Dan Quinn plays the cover 1 and the cover 3, and the way that the league is going in terms of the style of play, that nickel linebacker is going to be the most important, I think, in determining what happens with the defense. But let's say Leighton Vander Esch has a season where the Cowboys decide to keep him. Let's say he has a 2018 season. What would be the dollar amount you would put on a cap for him going forward for the Cowboys? Tricky, I know.
You know how the Cowboys are. We are reactive, not proactive.
Yeah.
So hey, you had a great year. Your 2018 LVE again. Back up the Brinks truck. It'll be fine. Yeah. We'll pay somebody later. It's okay. It is intriguing because I think there's a couple of guys, we're talking about the money side of it, like a Randy Gregory. Obviously, I think you get the deal done sooner than later. It's going to behoove you. I do believe in now. See, on the LVE side, I do believe, hey, man, you got to prove it to me again. It's been 2 years of wash, so I want to see it again. Maybe that costs me on the back end a little bit more. However, I got to see it. So
protect yourself.
Right. You got to protect yourself on that front. And I think, I think Steve is a little bit burnt just because a couple of guys that gave a deal too early. And I'm going to go back to Tyrone Crawford, and then you moved him. He got hurt here and there, so I think he's a little burnt on some of that stuff. But, yeah, man, LV walked through the door. Man, bro, if it's a big number, that means he had to play in a top 10 style, linebacker. Jalen took a little bit of a deal for us. If you look at the grander scheme of things, no matter what the numbers look like now, but he did take a little bit of a deal. And I think LVE might come into the same point, guys. I think after 2 years, what happened? He's not getting that 5th-year option. Maybe it's something. Maybe he ends up, if he has a great 2018 style season, I'll put him in the top 15 range. Top 10 to 15 type of deal.
Yeah.
Not top 10, maybe top 10 to 15.
I think I think the 5th-year option, if we'd exercised it, would have been about a $9 million cap hit next year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if he has a fantastic season this year, I think that's your starting point. The same way that we were talking with Dak, that when he was doing all the contract negotiations, that he was paid $31 million last year. $31 million would be his base this year that you'd be talking about. Any potential deal you'd be talking, it would have to be that per season at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if he balls out this year, you're probably talking $9 million, or you're giving him guarantees that'll pick up that sort of contract range.
Mm-hmm.
If he has I think you can probably get, if you were mid-season, you could probably get him, and the trajectory is that he's going to match that. That's when you maybe start talking to him, try and get the deal done then, rather than letting him hit the open market, because as soon as he's hit the open market, that's it. I mean, you're competing with anybody else. Maybe, believe it or not, he might end up getting $15 million a year if it's a fantastic season.
Because the guy's athletic testing, and we'll move on to the next two guys. Yeah. Just to give you his athletic testing, it's like phenomenal. You just, all I'm saying is I don't need to go through the numbers. They're all in the 95s, 96, 97s, 95. The worst with his bench rep, which was in the 36th percentile, but everything else is in like the 90th percentile. And to have a play like that just goes to show you the base level of the player that you're playing with. It is literally down to the neck. But let's move to the next two guys. I'm going to lump them together. That is Francis Bernard, Luke Gifford. So Francis Bernard from Utah, undrafted free agent last year. 780K on the cap. Luke Gifford, undrafted free agent from the Cornhuskers, Nebraska. This is his contract, both on contract years. He's 850 on a K. There is 18 tackles between them, 6 solo. That's between them both. Any of them pay your keeper? Just keep it simple for these pair. Any of them pay your keeping going forward?
I mean, the special
knowing
teams,
what you've got on the back end of that roster.
Yeah, I mean, obviously these guys are really good special team guys. I mean, Francis Bernard coveted as a great cover linebacker. All right, Luke Gifford, who obviously is his rookie year, had some flashes in training camp and obviously in some preseason games, and then he's just been injured. I mean, I'm thinking, if I'm a betting man, you're not keeping both. That might be the battle. On who stays to be on and who wants to play special teams the most. For me, I'll give the nod to Francis Bernard.
That's why I would go,
Both of these guys are sort of lumped in that they're supposed to be instinctive, but in terms of the actual speed that they have on the field, they're lacking the speed. So they need to be following that go slow until you know mantra.
Yes, it's working.
Right.
Yep. I think as we've discussed, special teams is their way of making a mark, and just then unfortunately hoping that something causes them to step up. And again, we don't truly know what this system's going to be like. If Dan Quinn is forced to play them for some reason, maybe he can find a niche for them, and they can carve out some sort of career. But to be honest, at the moment, I think they're going to be strictly on the special team kickoff, kick return, that sort of thing. So
they were on our list as cuts for not making week 1, and some people made it. A lot of Cowboys fans made this the reply to us, the special teams. A lot of people are saying that. But let's move on to the next guy, because this for me was maybe one of the biggest free agent signings for the year for the Cowboys. It's linebacker, not safety, Keanu Neal, 25 years of age. He was actually a first-round pick in 2016 from Florida, playing for Atlanta. $2 million on the cap this year. Did have some nasty Achilles injuries, I believe it was, in 2018 and 19. Last year, believe it or not, for Atlanta, was his pinnacle year. He had his best year for his career last year. One thing I always say about Keanu Neal, because people say I'm not so sure. The first point is you already made it next. He knows the Dan Quinn system. For the way things are going with question marks on training camp and, Zoom meetings and all the rest of it, a player that already knows the system can hit the ground running. That's good news. You can't take away from the fact he has played in 5 playoff games and been to a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Thanks.
I know that's not an individual stat, but it just goes to show that he was on a defense that was able to get a team there. Right. But give me your take next on Keanu Neal, and then I'll get Lawrence.
Yeah, you want to bring guys in. We need someone to come as a defensive coordinator. You want your guy, right? You want a guy to come in here, be able to preach the good word. Hey, this defense is going to work. If you don't think so, trust me, I've been in it before. Here's what to look for. And not only just the fact he's in there with the linebackers, from playing the safety position on that field, he can kind of give some nuggets to the safeties and whatnot on the back end as well. So he's able to do a little twofold there, right? He can also be, you got the fire extinguisher in one of your schools or whatever, break the glass in case of emergency. In case of an emergency, and you just happen to need a strong safety, right? I mean, you could, possibly, injuries happen. We know how that works. If something happens to Wilson and we're not looking too good at strong safety, hey, Neil, can you come back and help us a little bit, right? So he kind of helps, 2 fronts. I'm intrigued to see because he wants to play linebacker. And again, I talked about this a little earlier. Last year in Atlanta, he played 42% of the snaps at linebacker. As you said, Mike, one of his better years. Again, to me, you would think, right? We talked about these 2 linebackers in the nickel. You're penciling him in, right? You think he's going to be one of the guys for sure. But the money doesn't dictate that though either. We'll wait and see how that plays out. I'm with you though. I'm super excited. A guy, again, playoff experience, as you said, Super Bowl. You can't buy that. That's something that you get, and you can spread that to the rest of the guys. He wants, and he said it, verbatim, his quote, "I want to be in the mix and hit people." He's like, safety got too boring. He said safety got too boring sometimes. I want to be in the mix and hit people and help this run. And again, I think it's another thing that Dan Quinn has done, because from the very beginning of the outset once we got Dan Quinn in, I was like, okay, he's a D-line coach, right? So front seven is his forte. This run defense was so horrible last year, right? We gave up 155 yards per game, 31st in the league. So I wasn't sure how he was going to go about it, more secondary, more front. To me, I was like, I thought if we was going to get big free agents, it was going to be in the front seven. Now, maybe not the biggest of free agents. Neil's big free agent. He's front seven, though, right? And most of the guys that we did go out here and sign, the Bashams, the Urbans, are front seven. He is throwing everything at the wall. So no. And you look at the draft picks. Yeah. We're going to fix this front seven, and Neil's a part of that process. So I'm excited to see, like, we're not ignoring it. That sometimes it kind of happens in off seasons, right? We don't really attack what needs to be fixed. And it looks like Dan Quinn is doing that. Neil's a part of that puzzle to be that mouthpiece on the field. You're going to actually, Neil to me was one of the guys I kind of wish they would have gave a 2-year deal. I know they gave it to Basham as well, but Neil, I thought at 25, I was like, man, can we not get a 2-year deal right now? What's nice and maybe a smidge cheaper, but Neil with his youth wants to get that proven deal, go out there and maybe cash in. So I understand that, but super excited for Neil, what he can do. And again, it creates competition. So the LVEs and the Jennings we talked about, hey, you can't just rest on your laurels and you've been signed or you got the 5th-year option. It wasn't, hey, Neil's here to compete and you better stand. Now here's Micah Parsons we talked about. We'll get to Cox here in a second. You got to compete for a spot. And whenever you do that, as the old saying goes, man, iron sharpens iron, and we should get better play overall from our linebacker position. But I'm excited about Neil, man. I'm with you. Urban's my biggest guy that I like signing, but, man, Neil's right there, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, funnily enough, ironically, we talked quite in depth about Basham last week because we put him in with the D-line guys.
Yeah, for sure.
You could put him as a linebacker if you wanted to go down that road.
Yeah, depending on the setup. Absolutely. He came from the Jets. He did some standing up. Yeah, the Leo position, right?
Exactly.
That we talk about a ton with Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn's a 4-3 under, 4-6. But he has a lot of 3-4 principles with the defense line, with the different gaps that they take and different things. So, yeah, I mean, you'll see, like, for instance, Basham will slide inside to a 3-tech sometimes, or better yet, a Chauncey that we drafted from Iowa plays that 5-tech position, right? You'll see him slide inside too as a 3-tech. Like you used to see that with Bennett for them up there in Seattle. So the multiple fronts is what's really curious in how they're going to play this thing out.
Yep. And as you guys,
what's your take then on Keanu Neal?
Well, as you guys have discussed, obviously he's played safety. He's spent a bit of time playing linebacker in Dan Quinn's system. So he will be a coach on the field. Make sure guys are lined up in position, what they should be keying. Just a little comment here, there, or what have you, take a step to the left, take a half step to the right. Get the guys in position. He can control things on the field better. My concern is obviously having him up near the line of scrimmage as a linebacker, and he's aiming to come into camp at 215 pounds, trying to take on an offensive lineman coming out to a second level to run block. That's going to be difficult for him. He is traditionally he's been a thumper. He's a thumper in the same way that Donovan Wilson is. Now, equally, that can sometimes end up that you're sitting in the blue tent, undergoing concussion protocols, especially if you're going up against a big beefy guy.
Right. Although I will say, though, I do believe, and man, excuse for the article that I forgot that I read it from. I've heard he's beefed up to about 230 now.
Nice.
I heard he's around 230, 235. I think he's beefed up some. I forgot where. I think it was ElScowboys.com. I'm not quite sure. Obviously, we'll see that. But I have heard he has added some weight to play the linebacker position. He's somewhere in that 230 to 235. But you're absolutely right. That 212, 220, I think that's where the NFL is headed. I think the NFL is headed to that linebacker-wise to a certain extent with the coverage abilities and what's happening. But, maybe a little too soon for them. But I do think he has beefed up a little bit, though. But I'm with you.
You look at the guys like Deion White and Deion Jones, etc. They are the younger, lighter guys that are able to excel in pass coverage, and that's probably what we're trying to do with Keanu Neal as well.
Yeah, definitely. But let's move on to the next guy. And really, in terms of like the starting guys, as soon as you put this, you mention this name to any Dallas Cowboys fan, they instantly light up with a great big smile. Some people complain about the Nation Wright pick. I've got an article coming out on that. We're just waiting for the defensive back position because, believe me, you'll be happy about what's going on there. Jabril Cox. Right. So here it is. From North Dakota State / LSU. Taken in the 4th round. Now, on my board, I went back and checked. He was actually ranked my 31st player.
Okay.
So he was nearly practically a first-round pick. Yeah. Because the guy is, honestly, he's totally insane. 23 years of age. Not to forget, he helped take NDSU to an FCS championship and won it. So he won it. He then decides this league is a bit below me. I'm going to go to the next level. Goes to LSU, SEC, bear in mind, and he ends up absolutely. He was probably on a bad LSU team, one of the best players on that roster. So much so, and we put the stat up this week, he actually recorded the lowest quarterback rating against than any other linebacker in the SEC. He had I think he allowed a quarterback rating of what was it? I think it was like
57, wasn't it?
Something like that. It was the lowest in the SEC. That's how great this guy is. For you guys, outlook, role, position, what do you see for Jabril Cox? Start with you, Nix, because I love talking about this guy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and he's sparked up a lot of different ideas about what to do with him. You know, another stat too. I think he was targeted 41 times, ended up with like 4 interceptions, 5 or 6 batted balls. I mean, just different things like the ball. He's kind of magnetized to the ball for a linebacker, right? Yeah. So, you know, for me, I call him Weapon X. This is what I call him, and he's the most intriguing guy. I think as we talked about all these guys. Yeah, I think as we talk about all these guys, right? And it's just like, to me, it's like, well, and I had him. You had him a little higher than me. I had him as a mid to late 2nd rounder. But still, nonetheless, great. I mean, value-wise, great pick. You know, tackling's a little bit of an issue. Tackling's a little bit of an issue with him now. He's not the best tackler.
That is true, yeah.
But, you know, from the cover standpoint for a linebacker, I mean, we're talking about 6'4", right? The length, you know, the speed, all the things that Dan Quinn's trying to really just inject into the veins of this defense. He brings it. You know, your normal outlook would be, hey, man, he's going to chill this year. Spot duty in case of injuries, special teams guy, go on from there. But to me, you just can't ignore what he can help you with. See, to me, he's another one of those guys, the future of the position of linebacker with his ability to cover.
Yes.
And
the way it evolving.
Right. To me, you got to find a way in spot packages or whatever to get him in there, whether it's a quote unquote a big nickel where we're going to add add a quote unquote, well, he's not a safety, but you know what? Oh, they got this tight end that's going to line up in the slot. Well, maybe we can put him over there, let him plug and chug a little bit, right? Or, maybe we see some of the 3-3, a little bit of the 3-3 front, right? 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, right? Yeah. And now you plug in Cox as that 3rd linebacker to help you with that coverage in those passing situations. But for me, I think his talent is too much to just say, hey, this is your red shirt year. You'll be on the team. You're going to be special teams. Again, Weapon X is what I call him. And I think we have to find a way to get him as a weapon. I'd almost look at him like a jack of maybe all trades. I got to work on the tackling. You know, Tom, you think of the honey badger, right? And he's a safety. Good way to look at it. Right. He's a safety. Yeah. Man, he's all over the field, though. He's in the slot. Yeah. He's blitzing off the edge, in the box, deep. He's kind of that. So I kind of look at Jabril Cox to a certain extent of he's kind of that way, a Swiss Army knife, if you will, at the linebacker position. And I think, and Dan Quinn's creative, I think there's ways they can do things to get him involved, and I think it behooves us. And again, as we keep talking about these guys and those Jalen's and LVEs, you better bring your lunch pail because there's guys here to compete.
And like you say, the way the position is moving and evolving, the linebacker is moving away from the Jalen Smith type and more towards the Jabril Cox type. Right. For me, I'm totally with you that he's going to be that big nickelback, like maybe perhaps like some teams have got that tight end killer role. Yep. And that's how
Byron Jones year one, like Byron Jones year one. Yeah, he was kind of the safety, but boy, when we had linebackers, he was in the tight ends, he was in the box. He was just trying to eliminate those guys. And I mean, he's taller and longer than than Byron is even. So I'm excited to see what Dan Quinn comes up with. But they got to come up with their role. He's one of the guys for sure. I'm like, this guy needs some type of role, and I hope they follow through and walk through with that, with what he can do.
Yeah, they need to bake in snaps for him, definitely. I mean, the thing that instantly pops out to me is the guy's got a 79.5-inch wingspan.
So crazy. It's so crazy. It's like, man, I'm going to create this linebacker. Let me do 6'4", pterodactyl arms, super fast and can cover. That's what I want, right? Oh, man, insane.
Yeah, but go on, Lorne. I'll get your take on Jabril Cox, and we'll move on to the last two guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to use him, you maybe spell Leighton Van Der Esch with him, because Leighton's good at dropping back in coverage.
Right.
You're not going to swap him out with Jalen, I would say, for pure pass rushing, or you'll scheme a few blitzes in for him, but generally his strength is the pass coverage, whether it be zone or man. As you say, let him carve out a niche this year. If need be, stick on special teams and then build up for next season. As we say, we don't know what's happening with Jalen. We don't know what's happening with Leighton Van Der Esch next year. If you've got somebody who's coming in and assuming a starting role next year, who's been blooded in the system, learned, taking his knocks, everything like that, and then able to step in and take that position, you're ahead of the curve for next year. But certainly coming out of college, it seemed to be the steal of the draft, and if he lives up to potential, then great. This is going to be a fantastic linebacking core. If you get everything. Well, if you get everything that we should have on paper, you're going to have just one of the best linebacking cores ever.
And Lauren, even back to your point earlier, where you're talking about, and you was bringing up that Stephen Jones was saying, like, hey, these draft picks, if they make the team, well, that helps us so we can move on. I mean, at the end of the day, if Jabril Cox walks through that door, and it's going to be Parsons and Cox moving forward, well, I mean, we can go and kiss all the rest of the linebackers goodbye and find some depth behind them and move forward and save all that money then. So, and you have these guys for the next 3 years on rookie deals, saving that money to put in other places and do those things. So that's another thing, too, that's big about Cox as well, is if they do carve out that position, he walks through that door and come next season, it's like, okay, yeah, we can roll with these two as our main guys with Parsons and Cox. Well, then the rest of the guys can, hey, we appreciate your services. Good luck in your future. And then they can move on. And salary cap, that helps you out tremendously, as you brought up earlier, Lauren.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, we'll move on to the last two guys and wrap things up. A lot of people talk about the problems with taking Nation Wright pick 99. If you flipped it and you said, okay, well, what if we took Jabril Cox at 99 and you took Nation Wright in the 4th round? People go, oh, yeah, I'm happy with that. It's like, well, just in your mind, do that, because that's basically what we've done.
Well, I'll give you a different perspective on it and see if you guys like this. And I tweeted this out today, and I was talking with some other people.
Yeah,
Kelvin Joseph at 44 was the scouts pick, not the coach's pick.
True.
Nahshon Wright was the coach's pick, and they pushed for it because actually the scouts wanted Cox, and they pushed for Wright because once you get to camp, it's much easier to sell a fan base at a 3rd round pick. Be out a 2nd round pick for a position or a starting position, then you start talking to get into the weeds of a 4th, 5th, 6th. Well, they beat our 2nd round pick. Like, oh, well, you messed up the draft, And then again, so now you have the scouts with Kelvin, you have the coaches with Nahshon in the 3rd. I think that's a very intriguing thing to look at heading into camp, and people need to pay attention to that. And then you go back to Jerry says, well, don't worry about where we drafted them. Just think about the totality of what we got.
Yeah.
But as it pertains to cornerback 2 per se, Kelvin scouts, Nahshon coaches. When you're stamped by the coach, it means something a little bit more. And we'll see how it plays out.
Yes. I know exactly what you mean.
You've got to say in OTAs that Nahshon's actually, he's backed up the coach's assertions.
He's flying. He's flying.
And Joseph, okay, was unlucky that he came into contact with somebody who obviously then had to go into isolation for a bit.
Right.
Missed out on 3-4 practices or whatever. We could see that Nahshon's actually, the steal of the draft as well.
He very much could be.
absolutely, thought Jerry had been drinking a couple of bottles of bourbon that day,
Well, look, put it this way. I know we're not talking cornerbacks, but we'll just do it since we're there. But Nation Wright, what you've got to realize is, like you said, that's the coach's pick. That is Dan Quinn's pick.
Yep.
He's looked at him. He's looked at the length. He's looked at the range, and he's gone, I had that before Richard Sherman. Where did he pick Richard Sherman? Picked him in the 4th round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and coaches are creatures of habit.
They are.
They just are. And they have a profile. They have certain things, and we can easily take back. Unlike Nolan last year, who just, we signed some guys, we drafted, whatever. But it's a clear cut from every single free agent that we brought in to every single draft pick. It makes sense in what longer, faster, bigger. And that's what he wanted to be. And I'll go back to Marinelli was, give me the talent and I'll mold them a little bit. I don't really care about how long ended and different things. No. And again, back to the Woods getting up out of here ASAP. It's like, no. You don't fit the profile, sir. You have to go. I don't believe in that. And so he sticks to his guns. And back to your point with No Sean versus say, a Sherman, if you will. Definitely Dan Quinn has a plan. And that's what we should be excited about. He's executing.
Definitely.
We know he has a plan and we're seeing it executed. Now we got to see it on the field.
Where it matters most. Then the last 2 guys then, and we'll wrap things up here. First one is an Aggie, which is interesting, but there are some issues here. It's Anthony Hines III, undrafted free agent this year. For me, even down to the injury history, very Jalen Smith-esque. Didn't even see me the last year. He opted out. He's $660K on cap. He's an undrafted free agent, so it's only his signing bonus really that is there. I'm not sure if he makes the cut. Possibly put him to a practice squad role, I think, but I can't see it. More purely because I got to stick by my guns and say with Jalen Smith, he plays a position that's slowly dying out. That's really Anthony Hines. When you look as well at statistics, as well as the measurables, matches up very closely to Jalen Smith. Very close, almost a mirror image. The other is Azur Kamara, undrafted free agent last year from Kansas. He was on IR in 2020, so didn't do much. I don't know about you guys. Either of them, are you keeping practice squad guys maybe at a push?
I think practice squad, or you'll be seeing them next year in the USFL when that restarts.
Yeah.
Well, I think Go ahead. I'm sorry, Lauren. Go ahead.
No. If not the USFL, I mean, obviously you can go north of the border and go and play in the Canadian game. Refine your technique up there. There's a guy on the Eagles roster, a guy called Alex Singleton. Now I'm a Calgary Stampeders fan for the CFL, and I mean he was your Sean Lee type linebacker. Very instinctive, knew where everything is. He's come down. Initially was a backup for the Eagles, and now he's coming in. Last year he was leading tackler for the Eagles last year, and this year he's predicted to be, he's going to be the leader of that defense and leader of the linebacking corps. So, a lot of people poo-poo some of these leagues like the USFL, but it's if nothing else, it's honing your skills. It's getting more tape. Somebody's going to take you, and somebody can see the benefits of you. And it's probably better than if you're sitting in a practice squad and you're great. You're training with the team. Nobody's going to be watching video of what you're doing on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's what you can do on game day. So,
yeah. With you there, mate.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Hans is a 6'2", right? 6'2", about 235-ish. He's from Plano. He's a local kid, right? So you bring the local kid, feel good story. You bring him in for camp, see what happens. But I think maybe a little bit more juice with Kamara. Again, 6'4", right? Yeah. Lengthy. And he's a third guy that we brought in from this Kansas. I mean, he's another guy that we brought in from Kansas. And if you go back to, his coach that was there, right, was the old LSU coach. Eats the grass. Forgot his name. Lord.
Yeah, the old guy.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
so I mean, there's a guy. So
renowned for bringing up underdogs.
Right. So I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a little juicier because of the size profile, or whatever. But I'm with you. I mean, these guys were talking. They're camp bodies.
What's his name?
Yeah, man. I see his face. Lee starts with an L. Lord, it's going to drive me up a wall now. Oh my goodness.
I'm not going to cheat and Google it. I was just about to Google.
That's all right. That's okay. I'm going to. How about that? I'm gonna. Oh, and when I see it too, I'm gonna be so mad about it. I really am. I really am. Lance. Oh, it's on my tiptoe. It's really there. There we go. Boom. I see his whole face and everything. I hate it here. I really do. Les Miles.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. Anyway, but again, some size profile stuff. Les Miles, over there in Kansas, and he played with him. So, but again, camp bodies at best, probably you're looking at, as y'all said, practice squad guys, and we'll see what happens. But hey, it takes one opportunity or whatnot, right? We saw a drafted guy, albeit at the quarterback position, Deshaun Wright, get a little bit extra opportunity, get a little shine. So same thing with these guys as well. Camp bodies until further notice.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
And that pretty much wraps all that up. Before we go, though, we will pay the bills, but I don't want to do that before asking you about Star Gang, the guys you've got over there, because we'll get them all over. But tell us a bit about it, and so obviously the UK audience knows where to go and where to follow.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. We started. We're heading to our third season. We 2019. And so we had the nights. Excuse me. Yeah. My goodness.
So we started at the same time then.
Yeah. A lot of people kind of did. So we had 19-20 season. Now we're going to the third season, 21. Hoping for some little bit better results, right, guys? We appreciate everybody so much, man. We started with 150 followers throughout social media. We're knocking the door down on 15 grand now across social media following us. Not only just me, man. I got my guy Spoonie. If you ever tune in, watch Spoonie's Minute, he definitely gets the rant off of Cowboys Nation. You can follow him. You can follow him at Spoonie881 on Twitter. My girl Mary Ella, she's Stargang Beauty over there on Twitter, and then of course our newest addition, Matt Owen, aka Professor O, and you can follow him Professor O on Twitter as well. We got the Stargang group and page on Facebook. Come join the group, like and follow the page. We put up all of our content there, and then of course currently we're trying to grow the YouTube page. We are really trying to push to 1,000 before the season starts. Stargang Podcast, that simple. Type it in, follow, subscribe, and man, catch me on Twitter. Your_guy_Nix, man. Come follow me over there. Have a great conversation with people all the time, like these fine gentlemen here. And I plopped in just out of nowhere one day on my cell phone to let me in. I mean, we got to do it again. They finally reached out, man. I love what y'all do. I always have a good time watching y'all, and appreciate y'all having me on, man. And Paul, you missed out.
He's left. I want to say holding the baby, but his baby is a small brown dog.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I mean, like we'll reach out and we'll get the other guys on.
Absolutely.
Do the whole cross mogenation, whatever you want to call it,
Let's
flow. We'll definitely do it. So everyone in the UK gets to know and see all of you. We like we say, through draft day we spoke to you guys and all the rest of it. We had Tuck on as well. Tuck flew in and out as the night was going on. But thank you very much for joining us. And before we go, make sure, guys, if you are going to a game this year, you book it through Cowboys Experience for their game day tickets, packages, and stadium tours, and of course their tailgate parties. And if you do go to book with Cowboys Experience, use the booking code UK Cowboys, because, Lorne, what happens?
You A, won't be a clown, and B, you get free stuff.
What's wrong with free?
Yeah,
what is
the best
wrong
things
with free?
in life are free. Best
free
things in life are
99.
free. But yes, that is the linebacker core, guys, on the positional breakdown series. Getting a little bit closer to camp and then a little bit closer to some real football.
One question. I want to ask y'all one question before we get out of here.
Go on, man. Go on.
Real quick. Who's your surprise cut after camp? I know I'm putting you on the spot. Surprise cut. Who's the surprise cut for camp? You can go with none. You can go with zero.
No. My surprise cut will be because people will say, "Oh, it's all about the special teams." So it's a little bit of a cop out.
Okay.
My surprise cut will be Noah Brown.
Okay, Lauren, you got a surprise cut?
I'm going to say Cedric Wilson's gone. The $2 million on the cap this year. As I say, anything that we can carry across next season in dead end free money mitigates anything that we've got in the cap charge next year. $2 million is a hefty charge on the cap this year.
Yeah.
Anything that we can save anywhere, and you've got guys like Fahoko. He's going to take one of their. Where certainly he's going to either take Noah Brown's or he's going to take Wilson's job.
Yeah.
So,
what's yours then, next? What's yours? Go on, we get yours as well.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I'm gonna go out on a limb a little bit, and I'm gonna follow the money train a little bit. I know it's
they always say follow the money.
I'm gonna follow the money, and I get it. We're hearing about him now and whatnot. We haven't really added nothing to the position, but I think if things play out a particular way in camp, I think Anthony Brown gets cut.
I can see that.
Cornerback.
Yep.
I can see it.
Saves you $4 million. I know the guy penciled it in at cornerback 2 right now. I'm still not buying the hype. I'm not buying the hype. I think they're waiting for people to walk through, and you basically signed. And again, if we're following the contracts, right? They basically signed Jordan Lewis to the same contract as Brown. Why would you keep him? You can save $4 million. We'll see though. Brown's my guy. That's who I'm rolling with.
Yeah, I know. My issue is I'm just so worried about the corners. Like you just start off with week 1. And look at what. You're going to turn around and you're going to say you got Brady with Mike Evans, Algie, and Godwin. I'm throwing Gronk as well. Yeah, that your corners that we know that we've got right now. That's what they're facing week 1.
Yeah,
and you're just like,
yep.
And let me ask you this: Brown being on the squad or not doesn't make you feel any better.
No.
Exactly. There you go. It's $4 million. There you go.
It just the only thing is the veteran. Veteran. But in terms of talent wise, no.
Right. So I'm following the money. We'll see.
Yeah.
Look at the 81 secondary where we had Michael Downs and Everson Wall starting. Part of the Thurman's Thieves, and the one stat the 1980 to 1985, the Cowboys had something like 134 interceptions. You go from Wade Phillips all the way through to end of last year, and we're not even close to that. We're about 127. So
in a passing league now.
In a passing league, I was just about to say that.
Crazy stuff. All right, I'm sorry to hold you. I'd like to throw that out to see what y'all think. So appreciate that. I'll see what y'all thought.
We're here to talk, man. We're here to talk. But we'll get you on again, man. We'll definitely get you on again. There's plenty of Cowboys football to be had. But for this week, that is us. So from Lorne and Nix, we'll see you all again next week, guys.
Peace.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.